The idea that no person is above the law is a bedrock principle of American justice.
No man is above the law, no matter what the crime.
And I agree with you. No man is above the law, and no person is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one's above the law.
No one is above the law.
No man is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No man is above the law.
He has to be held accountable. He's not above the law.
No one's above the law. Either that nor any other title puts you above the rule of law.
I miss those days. Joining me now, my friend Josh Hammer, host of the Josh Hammer Show. Hey, Josh, nobody is above the law. Man, I love it. I love watching these judges in handcuffs. It does my heart well.
Jesse, I mean, ever since Alvin Bragg trotted out there with that ridiculous 34-count indictment against Donald Trump on the Stormy Daniels, Michael Conn, I mean, it really feels like a whole nother lifetime ago, doesn't it? But ever since then, for the following year and a half, how many Democrats got up there and said exactly what this montage just showed? No one is above the law. It is incumbent upon us to hold all of us to the same legal standard. By the way, ironic side note, I don't think leftists, Jesse, know where this notion of no one above the law, I don't think they understand where that actually comes from. That's actually from the Bible. In fact, the English common law, which famously said that the king is not above the law, the common lawyer who wrote that into the common law was literally citing the Hebrew Bible, the book of Deuteronomy, when he cited it. So kind of funny how the left doesn't realize when they're citing the Bible. But that's just a whole aside here. The point for our purposes is what a bunch of galling hypocrites. I mean, what a bunch of stinking, raging, smelly, Looney Toony hypocrites here. No one is above the law until it is their own person who is shielding an illegal alien, who is obstructing the ICE agent's attempt to arrest this illegal alien. That's what happened, of course, with Hannah Dugan in Wisconsin. Until their own person is purportedly not above the law, well, that's when that judge actually is above the law. By the way, another point on this judge in Wisconsin, though, Jesse, though, we're dealing here with a state court judge who is accused, and it seems to me quite obviously did violate federal law. You know, the Democrats have a long and inglorious history in this country, Jesse, of trying to pretend that federal law has to bend the knee to state law. Last I checked, Democrats fought an entire civil war in the entire 19th century. We lost a lot of people to defend the principle that federal law is supreme to state law. It's actually right there in the Constitution. Article 6, it's the Supremacy Clause, very clearly says this Constitution and all laws passed pursuant thereto are the supreme law of the land. So what you're seeing here, it's not just hypocrisy. It's also the rise of what I like to refer to as a neo-Confederate sentiment, because they're basically just making the same arguments about how federal law is not actually supreme, at least as it applies to their friends. It's definitely supreme when it applies to their enemies. But they're saying that it's not supreme, and that's basically the same argument in many ways that John C. Calhoun and antebellum pre-Civil War slaveholders made. So, history has a way of repeating itself, Jesse, and that's also what we're seeing play out here in Wisconsin.
What's that quote? For my friends, everything. For my enemies, the law. It's pretty obvious what the game is here, Josh. As soon as they have control of the law, they want to use it to throw their political opponents in prison. As soon as we have control of it, well, then it's a constitutional crisis, of course, if any one of these vile little scumbags gets arrested and thrown into prison. It just, for normal people, Josh, it's so eye-popping to see a judge whisk away an illegal out the back of her private chambers to avoid arrest. It just, honestly, it's so in your face. It's amazing.
I mean, the brazenness of this is really just next level, right? I mean, when I first read this headline, Jesse, I mean, my jaw like physically dropped. I was like, this judge did what? I mean, like, what the heck just happened here? And by the way, just to illustrate here, I think this is probably a helpful example. So they're saying that this judge is above the law because how dare Donald Trump have the temerity, the chutzpah, and his FBI agents, his brown shirts, his jackboots, how dare they arrest a judge here? So we're talking about a state court judge here. Let's say hypothetically that a state court judge walked into the local tavern, into the local pub in town there, because the judge found out that his wife was having an affair. And let's say that the judge found the guy that his wife was sleeping with, took out his revolver, and shot that guy dead in the head there. Would the left really say that that judge cannot be prosecuted? I mean, this example just gives away the game here, which is their talking point that a judge in this case is above the law is just so transparently stupid. And it is so transparently stupid because it has everything to do with the fact that they simply do not want federal immigration law enforced. That is obviously the end all be all here. Democrats have been fighting against federal immigration law for quite literally decades. That is the entire purpose of sanctuary cities, sanctuary jurisdictions, sanctuary states, and so forth there. They have no interest in abiding by immigration law at best. At worst, they have every interest in the world in actively subverting it there. But as you said, the number one takeaway for me from this whole Hannah Dugan affair in Wisconsin is exactly the quote that you said, which is for my friends, anything, for my enemies, the law.
Josh, how's Donald Trump handling packing the lower courts? It's obvious the Biden administration was very purposeful. To their credit, give your enemy credit where it's due. They're very purposeful about getting their little communists in robes and places of power all across the country. How are we doing?
Well, nothing yet. There has not been a single judicial nominee announced, but I'm told that it literally could be any day. In fact, if it happens tomorrow, I would not be surprised. I mean, it literally is any day at this point. Now, it's not necessarily the administration's fault. I mean, Democrats, Chuck Schumer, they've been pulling out all the procedural parliamentary tactic stunts in the Senate to basically slow down the executive branch confirmation schedule there. But by middle to end of this month, really based on my calculations and based on my sources, the executive branch really should have all of its high to mid-level officials in place. Not everyone, because there's a bit of a backlog at PPO. That's getting a little bit in the weeds. But the point is, by mid to late May, we should have a situation where the Trump administration feels satisfied that most of its top-ranking, most important political appointees are in place. At that point, Jesse, it's really time to kind of get the gears in motion when it comes to stacking not just Article 2, but Article 3. And there are indeed dozens and dozens of current judicial vacancies. Most of them are on federal trial courts, but every federal judgeship these days is important, especially in today's post-constitutional era of judicial supremacy run amok there. So I've got a lot of thoughts on what we should be looking for when it comes to judicial nominees, and I'm optimistic that the administration will hopefully listen to some of it.
Okay, well, what are those thoughts, and are they listening?
Well, I think they are. We will see when the proof is in the pudding. But I guess I will just say this, Jesse. So among the hats that I wear these days is I'm senior counsel at the Article 3 Project, where my good friend Mike Davis is the founder and president there. And we at Article 3 Project think that we are going to have a lot of outside friendly influence when it comes. I'm not saying that we're the masterminds here. We're not the puppets. Obviously, those decisions are ultimately made by President Trump himself. He has the White House counsel's office, the Office of Legal Policy. There's a lot of moving parts of the judicial nominations apparatus. But I am inclined to believe that this second Trump administration is going to be a little more aggressive, a little more assertive, and frankly, just less afraid to pick people who are overtly ready and willing to get their hands dirty. So, Jesse, real quick, I have a new essay out for TomKlingstein.com, basically 4 things that I am personally looking for when it comes to trying to vet judicial nominees in this second Trump term. The first thing is just do the reading. Make sure that they actually have a spotless record. In the past, conservatives have simply failed to do the reading sometimes. We've been surprised when we should not have been surprised because there might have been a black mark back in a judicial opinion from 15 years ago that we just missed. That's number one. Number 2 is vet for full spectrum across the board conservatism. I am sick of these libertarian and corporatist pansies who just obsess over economic size of government issues while not saying a darn word or caring about things like sovereignty, borders, life, transgenderism, LGBT, religion. I mean, a lot of the cultural issues. That's number 2. Number 3, kind of going down the list here, arguably most important is you have to try to vet for judges, especially at the Supreme Court level, if we get a Supreme Court vacancy, who are ready, willing, and able to use all of the tools at their disposal. They have to be willing to actually vote for a writ of certiorari and actually hear difficult cases. They have to be justices who are not going to punt on a difficult case on so-called standing grounds. We've seen Amy Coney Barrett do this many, many times, for instance, there. So that would be point number 3. Then point number 4 is probably most controversially, Jesse, I actually care a lot about the nominee's private life. Like, who are you married to? I call this the spouse test. Is your spouse, your husband, your wife, as right-wing as you are? That's the person that you're ultimately going to come back to at night there, sleeping next to you at your bedside. You better make sure that your spouse is actually in your corner. I want to know what kind of house of worship you go to. If you're going to a rainbow flag church or synagogue, no chance. That's an automatic disqualifier there. So the actual personal life I care a lot about as well.
Had to go to a concert last weekend at a church. had a big sign out front that said love is love and Black Lives Matter and all kinds of commie crap. Couldn't get out of there fast enough. Josh, my friend, thank you. I appreciate you. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.